Hey, this week on Wednesday Wisdom, we're going to finish up chapter 1 here in 2 Timothy. And we've learned some real good things going through the first part of this chapter. And it'd be very tempting right now just to skip on and go to chapter 2 and start some fresh material. But there is this chunk of verses here at the end of the first chapter that I really want to talk about today. It's verses 15 through 18. You see, this is one of those sections where when you or I read through this, we might not get a heck of a lot out of it. This might be one of those areas where it's easy for people to say, you know, I can't read the Bible. I don't understand it. Quite honestly, reading through these verses, I don't get a lot out of it. He's talking about some people that deserted him. He's talking about how he wants prayer and encouragement for somebody else who visited him a lot. So I spent the last week just kind of meditating on these verses and saying, God, why are these in the Bible? I know they're not there just so we can skip over them. So what I kind of came to through prayer and God speaking to me is that Paul, for being in prison, man, he's got a really good attitude. He's talking about how these people who turned away from him, and he's asking mercy for this other guy who encouraged him. And I don't know about you, but often my life feels like a prison. And when I get in that mode of thinking, I don't really think of encouragement for anybody. Or I think about how people screwed me over at one point or the other, and I get depressed and I just keep dwelling on it. Paul's not doing any of that. He's actually just telling Timothy, hey, look out for these guys. Something might happen with them. And I'm thankful for the other people in my life that have always been there for me. Even though they might not be here right now, I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I'm thinking of them. I want the best for them. And I think that goes back to verse 14 where Jason kind of left us last week. By the Holy Spirit who dwells within us. Jason talked about the Holy Spirit. I want to talk about guard the good deposit entrusted to you. I think Paul is guarding that deposit and he's dwelling on that. He's remembering the gospel and he's not thinking about his current situation. He's thinking about what lies ahead. He's also thinking about his friend Timothy that he's writing this letter to and encouraging him. You see, Timothy has always looked up to Paul, and Paul has been pouring into him his whole life, building him up. And now it's time for Timothy to take that jump into leadership. And setting the good example for Timothy on how to act when times get tough is going to help Timothy throughout his days. And again, going back to that encouragement Paul has when thinking of the other people in his life. Man, if I could be that way when I get myself painted into a corner with bad thoughts, when I'm feeling sorry for myself. Look to Paul. Look to these verses that we think really don't mean much. I've read a lot of commentaries and stuff on this, and honestly, the stuff the commentaries are saying doesn't speak to me. But this is a case where I really believe I took these verses and just kept thinking about them. And the Holy Spirit planted that seed in my head that, you know, hey, speak words of encouragement rather than getting down on yourself when things aren't going your way. So that's basically where I want to leave it this week. Just think about the fact that Paul did not get discouraging. He got encouraging. And he thanked people and prayed for them and encouraged them when times got tough. I think if we could all do that, life would just be a little better. We'll see you next week on Wednesday Wisdom.